Standing by in the Homesteader Store hotline, Homesteader Store, good people with the right stuff. Kubota Ellis Tractor and Cub Cadet Stan Lennington from the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. We're going to talk about the city of Madison overtly thumbing its nose, flipping the bird, whatever you want to say, at the United States Supreme Court. But before we get to that, Dan, I'm looking at your Twitter feed here, and you are announcing the Fifth Circuit has ruled against the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms pistol brace rule. Anything we should know about that? Or, it's just kind of good news for the Second Amendment today.
Yes, this just happened just a few moments ago. We received word that the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is down in Texas and Louisiana, that they ruled against the ATF. There was a rule that said that if you had a pistol, like an AR pistol, I know you're familiar with these, and you use a stabilizing brace to make the pistol more accurate and therefore safer, that you have actually invented what's called a short barrel rifle. And so you must place your name on a registry and pay a tax. We filed a lawsuit against the ATF on behalf of 3 veteran Marines from Wisconsin and Texas. And then we also represent a group called Texas Gun Rights and another one called the National Association of Gun Rights, which is the second largest gun rights group in America. And we filed lawsuits, and there was a companion case that just was ruled on today by the Court of Appeals, which held the same issue as ours, said that this rule was illegal, and the Biden administration could not enforce it against any members of the groups in the cases involved. So it's a great win for the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is just really flourishing right now around America. There are being laws struck down all over the place. Because of the U.S. Supreme Court's decision a few years ago in this case called Bruin. So people have a right to protect themselves. They have a right to hunt. They have a right to own a weapon for any lawful reason. And you can't force people to put their names on a national gun registry, which is sort of the liberals' dream right now.
No doubt. So this one, this case just keeps getting better and better. Well, let's talk about Madison. What'd Madison do? So we have a Supreme Court ruling that said you can't discriminate against people based on race. You can't provide preferences for people based on race. And it looks here like Madison did exactly the opposite of what the Supreme Court said.
Yes, and it was just, the U.S. Supreme Court issued their decision in the Harvard case about affirmative action at the end of June. And then just 2 weeks later, the city of Madison created what they call the BizReady program, and it says that they want to offer training, technical assistance, and some grants to entrepreneurs, which is great. We love businesses. We love new entrepreneurs. We want people to start new businesses, but the program is limited to people who identify as BIPOC. Do you know what BIPOC is, Vicky?
BIPOC, but not person of color. I know is what is BIPOC?
BIPOC is Black, Indigenous, and people of color. It's a new term, so your listeners have to get used to BIPOC. But only these people are eligible for the BizReady program. So when they say they want more entrepreneurs, they don't mean just any old.
They mean no white people. That's what they mean.
Yeah, but it's kind of unusual, though, because the city of Madison has had a long-standing definition of the word minority. And they offer all sorts of benefits to minorities. And if they interpret this program the same way as they have in the past, not only are white folks eliminated from the program, but also anybody from the Middle East. So if you're from Turkey or Iran or Iraq or Saudi Arabia or even North Africa, if your parents were from Egypt, or certain parts of Asia, like Mongolia or Kazakhstan, you're out. You're not in the right countries. Your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents were not born in the right place. There's only certain preferential racial groups that Madison likes, and those are apparently certain types of what they call BIPOC. And so it's bigotry, it's disgusting racism, and we've called out the city today and said, you're going to have to, answer for this in federal court if you don't open up the program to everybody.
Yeah. Now, how do you guarantee? Let's just say they say, okay, fine, we'll open up the program to everybody. Although they might fight you into federal court. They don't really care. How do you know that they're not going to discriminate against people anyway?
Well, we'll have to see how they implement the program. We made a number of suggestions about how they could fix the program. So you just can't discriminate based on race or have an intent to. So if you wanted to help people who were struggling businesses, who were and they were in rough neighborhoods, crime-ridden neighborhoods, you could offer some sort of advantage to them, or somebody who came from poverty, or someone whose parents were immigrants, or someone whose parents was incarcerated. All these are race-neutral ways that you can help disadvantaged people, and we certainly want to help disadvantaged people. People who grew up in a bad neighborhood should get special help, but they should get help not because of the color of their skin, but because of their individual hardships that they have overcome in their life, and that people should be treated as individuals. And if you want to help an entrepreneur, help an entrepreneur. If you want to help a disadvantaged entrepreneur, help that person. Don't just say, you look like this color, therefore I want to help you.
Yeah, but
that's racism.
Yeah, I mean, but if you used immigrants, I mean, you're a son of Irish immigrants, and you've got a working class income, or you've got a working poor income. My sensibility is that Madison is just going to take a pass, because they're all about equity, and equity means advantages for groups at the expense of particularly white males. But in the case of Madison, I think they've also taken at least heterosexual white females off the list as well. So, I mean, they had to know this. They have a city attorney, right, Dan?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been on your program we had a lawsuit last year. It was called David Blaska versus City of Madison. I think you might remember this.
Sure
Madison tried to do quotas, and they settled that with us and paid us damages. So I kind of feel like they're doing it for the press release, and they're not really serious about it. And if they have to pay, attorney's fees, and the poor taxpayers of Madison have to foot the attorney's fees bill, they would rather do that than actually go through with the program and be held liable for lots of money in federal court. But it seems to me sort of genuflecting, posturing, telling everybody you're woke, but your heart's not really in it, maybe.
And then those awful people at Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, who obviously hate black people, that's what they'll say. So they'll try to, they'll say, well, they stopped us from doing this. We wanted to help the BIPOC people. We wanted to help you BIPOCs. But we couldn't help you because of those horrible people who actually think white people and men and Irish immigrants deserve defense. They're terrible. Obviously, they're worse than Nazis.
They are, and they can play the racial game with us all they want, but they still can't explain why they would deny, say, a $3,000 startup grant to a young person whose dad immigrated from Egypt. Well, why is the Egyptian small business person, why is that person ineligible, yet someone else from a different country is? Or why are people from Brazil, which is a non-Hispanic country, why are they discriminated against? Because Madison only wants to support, quote, Hispanic people, which means people from Hispanic-speaking countries, which Brazil is not one, and there are several others in Central and South America. So it's just, whenever you start to create categories and put people in racial buckets, it's always going to... It's always going to demean people. It's always going to hurt their dignity. It was what Clarence Thomas always says. And the easy rule is just to eliminate race discrimination by eliminating race discrimination. Well,
they won't. This is Madison. So I mean, everybody who is on the city council, everybody on the county board, the mayor, everyone, they basically just look at the Supreme Court decision and don't care about it. So like you said, if they've got to pay, so supposedly there's a $300,000 pile of money here. And a bunch of people can apply for these grants, but, that $300,000 may actually go into the pocket of Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. I mean, so it's no extra skin off their nose. They're not going to have to go and dip back into the taxpayers. Although if they have to do that, of course, all of the guilty white leftists in the city of Madison will be happy to see their taxes go up.
Yeah, it's a real kind of a mystery. This is a $300,000 grant program, but they say that only $75,000 is actually going to go in the form of grants to entrepreneurs, and the rest of the money, $225,000, gets to be spent as, quote, overhead by the nonprofit organization, which gets to run this, which kind of makes me suspicious. Some of their other material indicates that perhaps the nonprofit must be owned by a BIPOC person also, indicating that perhaps maybe some of the friends on the city council who voted for this actually know who this nonprofit is going to be. So there seems to be a little bit of financial issues going on here that would be nice if we had, a reporter or someone who might want to go ask some questions about where is this $225,000 going to and who's the nonprofit.
Not in this town.
But we're not going to get a reporter.
Yeah, not in this town. The reporters, they're press release agents. It's what they do. And that's all they do. So I think open records, though, it would seem that this would be subject to open records.
Yes, it would be definitely. And I should not pick on Madison too much here. This, we're pursuing a separate case against a program in San Antonio. We're finding these all over the country. They're all about wealth redistribution and what they call the building of wealth among minority communities, which, in other words, they call them reparations programs. So you're going to hear a lot more about these types of programs. There'll be styles reparation programs. There'll be hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars sort of put in a pot, and it's going to go and be dumped into a certain racial community that the city favors, and they'll say it's necessary to build wealth among that community, which is the only way, Vicki, to end systemic racism. So that's what you're going to hear in Madison, San Antonio. That's just two examples, and the last two that we've sued over, but there's going to be many more.
But it's illegal. Just because you say it doesn't make it legal, and just because you say it doesn't make it true. And how insulting is it to say that but for us lining the pockets of our friends who run a special nonprofit, you're not going to be able to succeed. Someone needs to file an open records request and find out what that nonprofit is, because the city should have been upfront about that if everything's on the up and up.
Absolutely, yeah.
Great to have you on the program. Dan Lennington, thanks very much. And you can read all about this at Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty's website, WILL-law.org. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.